Welcome to Keep Going, a podcast about failure and success, hosted by John Biggs. Every week, we talk to an amazing person about a time they failed and what they learned. And remember, when you're going through hell, keep going.
Keep Going, a podcast about. Welcome to Keep Going, a podcast about success and failure. I'm John Biggs. Today on the show, we have David Carvalho. He's the CTO of IH Care, and he sits on the board of a number of companies. You're in Lisbon, right, David?
Yes, all of them based in Lisbon.
And I think we've hung out multiple times over the years, but I wanted to find out what you've been working on. What's top of mind for you right now?
Well, at the moment, I'm pretty much committed 80% of my time to IH Care. So this is a startup that is developing. Actually, we've gone to market with one of our products, but we're still developing a solution that aims to address the issue of hospital-acquired infections.
Mhm.
And we're doing so by developing a device that allows to deliver showers to bedridden patients and a number of associated solutions, such as a bed linen that doesn't require frequent changing and is completely not only hydrophobic, but it's also antibacterial and antiviral, as well as some coatings that you can apply on a number of surfaces, from the bed surface to bedside tables, even the floor, which also provides antibacterial and antiviral characteristics to these surfaces. The end goal is to really tackle the hospital-acquired infection problem.
So this is even more than sepsis, right? This is just getting like a common cold in a hospital could be fairly damaging as well.
Yes, exactly. And there's a number of issues that arise, namely because the way most infectious vectors are handled in hospitals is through disinfection. And that creates a problem because you're actually creating an artificial selection of the strains of bacteria and viruses that are most resistant to those disinfectants. And that ends up creating resistances that are then much harder to fight once they attack your body. And our solution inactivates the bacteria and the viruses, doesn't kill them. So it doesn't provide that artificial selection process that allows them to become more dangerous.
Oh, interesting. So basically the viruses that do exist still are floating around, but they don't get destroyed. There's not artificial like natural selection associated with those viruses.
Exactly. So whenever they come in contact with these surfaces, either the bed linens or the surrounding surfaces that are treated with our coatings, they just become inactive. They are biologically inactive, and therefore they're unable to propagate any infection. But they're not killed per se. So they remain competitive, let's say, in the ecosystem of viruses and bacteria.
Why did you go down this path? Why did you build this out?
Well, I had a long story of entrepreneurship. Up to this point, I've been involved as a founder or co-founder of 26 startups, and most of them have been tech startups around IT, artificial intelligence, more along those domains. But I have a family history which has a couple of incidents. So I lost one grandfather and one grandmother to hospital-acquired infections. And given that I decided since 2015 to dedicate most of my time to address social issues, this seemed like a good place to start. At the time, I met a founder called Diana Pires, who is my co-founder in this company. She had the overall concept of what she wanted to achieve. Technically, she was not there, and I joined the company, and I've been working on making it happen.
26 startups sounds like quite a few. What was the success rate? Why did you keep building like that?
Well, initially was my life goal, let's say. I like to create stuff, and I also have the problem I get bored easily. So I try to create a structure. This is, we're talking about back in 2006 to 2015. I tried to create a structure that would allow me to have a research and development department that would be full-time, coming up with new concepts and then spinning them off as new tech startups. So I did that for a few years, and that resulted quite a number of startups. Some failed, some succeeded. And then in 2015, I had quite a traumatic event in my professional life. because due to some illegal activities from a business partner of mine, I lost control of my companies. At the time, I had 16 companies under the umbrella of a group that I had created. And I pretty much had to start, not even from scratch, because at the time I was still fighting legal battles, trying to get something back. And so I decided at that point to engage in socially meaningful ventures. And that's what I've been doing since.
I mean, that sounds like quite a blow. So you had 16 companies under one umbrella, and they were taken away from you. What was the situation there?
Well, the situation was that I found out that my business partner was diverting part of the funds of the company for his own personal use, and I confronted him with that. We actually reached a settlement, let's say, a way to move forward. And then when I was away from the country, there were a number of steps that were taken illegally. And that allowed him to take control of the companies. I filed several injunctions, but when the injunctions came into force, most of the assets had been transferred to a parallel structure he had created in the meantime. I still fought that battle for a couple more years. And actually, nowadays, looking back, probably it was one of my mistakes because I think I fought too long and too hard
Hmm.
to get what I had instead of focusing on moving forward and rebuilding. But yes, it was a terrible blow, both professionally and emotionally. It took me a while to recover from that
Why did you go back into startups after that?
because I still believe that there are a number of interesting problems to be solved. And the startup is, from my point of view, a way to collect resources to address those issues. And I really don't see myself working for someone else. I'm usually a nice guy, but I recognize that my personality is sometimes hard to deal with. So I decided to go back, but I changed my focus a bit. Beforehand, my ventures were mostly focused on technologies that just made sense to the market, period, from a financial point of view. They ended up refocusing on ventures that had a relevant social impact. I decided to do that with my life, and I don't regret it at all.
What does it mean to have relevant social impact? What are you looking to build? What are you looking to leave?
Well, my grandfather had this saying that I internalized a lot, which is that you should leave the world just a little bit better than you found it. And I really strive to achieve that with my life. So the problems that I have addressed, one of them, as I mentioned, is hospital-acquired infections, which, to give you a ballpark number, in Europe kills 90,000 people per year alone. And I also started addressing issues related to CO2 emissions. So two of the other ventures that I'm involved are using AI to tackle this problem. One of them by analyzing satellite footage and trying to determine what is the amount of carbon dioxide that is sequestered in forests, basically, trees and roots, and to use that to then generate carbon credits. And the other one is a venture that is aiming to determine what are the CO2 emissions associated with events like Formula One events or big football matches, and then give the opportunity of the organizers to offset those emissions.
Why would you do multiple things at once? One of the things that like VCs always say is like, oh, you're out there doing multiple things at once, and you're not dedicated to this idea. Aren't you afraid that you're going to be perceived as like, I don't know, a dilettante or something?
Oh, yes, very much so, and it's a fair accusation to make because I do suffer sometimes from a lack of focus. But that's why I decided with iCare, it's where I'm at the moment dedicating most of my time because I decided I really needed to focus on one company and one project. But still, it is still a problem that I have. It is, I think, kind of associated with my personality because even though I'm focused on aged care, I still get involved sometimes in other projects, social ones, namely that take up a significant part of my time with some personal consequences.
Yeah, I mean that's an interesting problem to have. Like, I mean, when you were running the 16 companies, I mean, you weren't really running them, but you had the 16 companies. What
Yes.
what was happening in your head? How were you able to manage all that?
Well, I had a team. I
Yeah, of
wasn't
course.
managing the company. But what I did was I created a pipeline, and usually I would be most involved in the companies that were in the process of developing the product or launching to market. And then I would find people that were capable of doing the scale up afterwards and just leave it up to them just with the occasional board meeting. So I delegated a lot and I focused in what I consider to be my most valuable skill set, which is to create and develop new products.
This new product, there's a new project. How do you, what do you do to focus, right? It seems like your brain chemistry might be aimed at not focusing. What do you do for yourself to make sure that you are focused?
Well, first of all, I've included in my life a number of practices, namely meditation, that I find really helpful to help quiet down my mind, let's say, and to focus a bit more. Other than that, I am quite strict with my time allocation. So I really try to allocate batches of time according to what my priorities should be, because sometimes they're not very well aligned with my internal priorities, let's say. So I try to allocate the time and then just stick to my schedule religiously. And I'm actually known for being a bit of a Nazi with the calendar because that's the way I keep myself in check, let's say.
Did you ever frustrate your co-founders by wanting to do too many things at once?
Yes, sometimes not directly because I'm trying to do too many things at once, but indirectly because they sometimes suffer the consequences of those. To give you one very clear example, back in 2022, my wife is Ukrainian. So when the war started in Ukraine, I started a little side project to create an NGO that would support Ukrainians as they came from Ukraine, help them with transportation to Portugal, helping them settle, all that. And, that very quickly went out of control. So I joined then with another project that appeared. And after 1 year, we had processed around 12,000 people through our system that we had created. We had around 400 volunteers taking calls in a call center that was created specifically for that. And the end result is that, ironically, when I was in Stockholm receiving an award from the European Commission for the work that we had done with refugees, I had a severe burnout. Literally, I went on stage to receive the award and I forgot where I was. And I ended up having to stay 7 months in downtime, let's say, to recover from that. So they ended up suffering indirectly the consequences of my lack of focus and overworking.
Yeah, what happened with that burnout? So that was 7 months. What did you do for 7 months?
Well, the first 3 months, I would say that I mostly slept, and because I was really, my memory just went away. I was actually emotionally quite well, quite stable, but my memory just didn't exist. I wouldn't remember something that I did 2 minutes ago. After those 3 months, my memory started coming back slowly, and then I started struggling with something else, which was, I was still not well, but my impulse to do stuff was coming back. It really made me struggle a lot, and the end result of that is that I ended up writing a book about AI.
Good.
That was how I kept myself sane during that time. But eventually, fortunately, I fully recovered and I'm back.
Yeah, that sounds pretty scary actually. That's like that idea of not being able to remember, especially for somebody like you who needs that working memory to maintain those spinning plates, right?
Yeah, and it wasn't only working memory; even long-term memory just vanished. I would literally forget what I was doing in the moment that I was doing it. It was quite scary, to be honest.
So I think there's a certain type of person like yourself that thrives in that sort of environment, right? There's folks who really like to be in one job and they sit there and they do their work and they go home and go to sleep. Whereas you seems to thrive in that stress. What are your recommendations? What are your best practices for people who prefer to be doing 100 things at once?
Well, first of all, I would start with what I do right now to keep focus, which is really be strict with time allocation. And that includes even your personal time allocation. So I really include my family. Sometimes this may sound a bit autistic, but I literally put aside time to be with my family, to have quality time with my kids. And I make that in periods. So it's there, it's scheduled, it's set aside, it's going to happen, period. The second thing I really recommend is meditation to anyone. You don't have to sit for hours, or even 10 minutes per day make a world of difference, at least for myself. That really works. And thirdly, sometimes complete periods of time off. And I have now included, I have at least one weekend per month in which I am disconnected from the world. I put my SIM card on an old Nokia 1100. So which really takes calls from family and text messages. And I just disconnect from everything digital, news, books, and I just go somewhere and vegetate. And that really helps me usually during those periods to refocus the rest of my month. So it helps me understand what is most important for me to tackle in the coming month. Finally, another practice which for me it was quite hard to introduce in my life, but has done wonders, is really just to journal, even if it's 5 minutes per day. It really helps quiet the mind a bit and find that extra bit of focus that at least I need.
That sounds lovely. Yeah, that sounds like actually a good stopping point. I mean, so when's the last you had the breakdown a few years ago, right?
1 year and a half ago.
1 year and a half ago, and you're roaring back again. And luckily, you're only doing one project, right?
Yes.
What's the website for IH Health?
It's right now you can go to ihcare.pt, and that will get you the website, or ihcarehealth.com.
All right, very cool. Well, thank you, David. This has actually been really super helpful. I think I need that weekend of not doing anything.
Oh, it really helps, believe me.
All right, this has been Keep Going. I'm John Biggs. We will see you next week. Thank you for listening to Keep Going, a podcast about success and failure. Remember, Keep Going is entirely listener supported. If you're listening to this, please head over to keepgoingpod.com, where you can subscribe to the podcast for as little as $5 a month. This is a labor of love, and every little bit helps. Thanks for listening.